Okay, today we are focusing on estimation. So on Friday, we specifically rounded certain places. So we reviewed rounding with whole numbers several weeks ago. We did rounding of decimals on Friday. Now we're talking about estimating decimals. So estimation, when you hear the word estimate or about how many or what's a close estimate or approximate, that should make you really excited because you get to choose how you're going to round your numbers. You get to choose what friendly numbers you like to work with and what's easy for you. So it's giving you some freedom to get creative and round how you want. Make the problem easy for you so you can do it how you want. Let me get this projected up here. Okay, so before we begin, I just want to remind you of Zero the Hero. Don't forget to add Zero the Hero as the best placeholder ever known to the math world, okay? He's going to help you keep things in line. He's going to help you, or Zero will help you make sure that everything stays exactly where it needs to and we don't make mistakes. Okay, when we are estimating, we are going to estimate first, then add or subtract. So on this paper, all we're focusing on is adding and subtracting. Could you estimate multiplication problems or division problems? Can you use estimation when you multiply or divide? Yeah, you for sure can. We're just going to keep it simple today, and we are going to just worry about adding and subtracting just so we can practice estimating. Okay, today it tells us that we are going to round to the nearest hundredth when we estimate. Just a little bit ago, I told you that the beauty of estimation is that you get to choose numbers that are easy for you to work with. So after today, if you have a problem that says estimate or what's the approximate answer or about how many of something, you can choose how you're going to round those answers. In a minute, when we do the guided practice, you get to choose how you round. There's going to be obvious directions on which way you should go as far as like, should I round to a whole number? Should I round to a decimal number? But for now, in our example problems, we are rounding to the nearest hundredth, just so we can have more practice with rounding. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite my numbers so that I have a Zero the Hero in all of my decimal places that have a blank in them. So if you notice, I have 3 7/10, but I need to put Zero the Hero in here to fill in my blank spaces, just so that I make sure I keep all of my digits aligned. And then I'm going to copy down my other number. So I have 1 287 thousandths. I'm going to put my Zero the Hero in the front. I just want to make sure everything stays aligned. Super important. Okay, now that I have everything done, I'm going to go ahead and round each of these numbers to the nearest hundredth to make it a little bit smaller. And then I can kind of think of it almost as money. Because when we work with decimals, a lot of times having it cut off to the hundredths place is a little easier than having those longer numbers. So I'm going to underline my hundredths digit, and I'm going to circle my judge in each one of these. Just because we did the lesson and we did the practice and we did well on it doesn't mean that we lose the, what's the word that I'm looking for? The process that we need to be using. Okay, we learn it, we teach it, we do it a certain way so that you keep practicing using that method, okay? So always underline the digit that you're rounding to, always circle your judge so you know what you're looking at. All right, the first number is going to round to 20, and now I'm looking at 39 hundredths here. The judge is a 6, which is 5 or more. So what happens to the 39 hundredths? What do I bump up to? 40 hundredths. So it's 20 and 40 hundredths. Everything before the decimal place that I rounded stays the exact same unless, like what just happened, the 9 went up to a 10 and it affected the tenths place as well. So I went up from 39 hundredths to 49 hundredths. Okay, the next one I have 3 7/10, but when I add in my 0 the heroes, I'm able to see that it's going to be 70 hundredths. And then the last one, I have 1 and the 8 is the number that I'm rounding. 7 is my judge, which is 5 or greater. So 8's going to bump up to what? Only one digit. I have 28 hundredths right now. I want to move up to 29 hundredths. It only goes up one digit. Okay, now we add them together. Make sure you carry. And my answer looks like it's 2,539. Is that correct?
No.
What am I forgetting?
Decimal.
My decimal. Guys, please don't forget, you've got to check your answer for reasonableness. What do I mean when I say check your answer for reasonableness? What do you think I mean?
It's like if you're like adding decimals.
If I'm adding decimals, my number that I added all, okay, my sum total of all the numbers I added together should be bigger than all the numbers that I added up, right? Like my sum should be bigger. So reasonable means if I get an answer, my answer shouldn't be a smaller number. If I'm adding, it should be bigger. But how much bigger? So that's where the decimal comes in. If I'm adding a bunch of decimals and my largest decimal number is 20, then my sum shouldn't be 2,000 something. That's not reasonable. Okay, so always check for reasonableness. All right, let's go down to an example with subtraction. Same thing, I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth, and then I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to rewrite both of these using 0 the hero. So I have 10 and 406 thousandths, and then 4 and 523 thousandths. I'll plug in 0 the hero, which is really just the tens place this time. And I'm going to be rounding to the hundredths place. So I'm going to underline my hundredths digit and circle my judge. I'm going to rewrite both of these. So my first one, I have 10 and instead of 40 hundredths, I'm going to go up to 41 hundredths. And instead of 52 hundredths, it stays 52 hundredths. Very good. So it's 4 and 52 hundredths. Don't forget, put a little 0 the hero there if you're struggling to keep your digits in line. That way you don't make a mistake. Okay, we're going to go ahead and solve for this. Now, this requires some borrowing and regrouping. I can't take 2 from 1, so I've got to borrow from the 4, which leaves me with 3 here, and this becomes 11. So 11 minus 2 is 9. I can't take 5 from 3, so I've got to come over here and I have to borrow from, I can't borrow from a 0, so I got to actually kind of look at that as like a 10. So I'm going to borrow, and that leaves me with 9, and the 3 becomes 13. So what's 13 minus 5? 8. And then 9 minus 4 is 5. So 589, except for I forgot my decimal, so it should be 5 and 89 hundredths. Okay, a couple of key words. Super important. I lost it because whenever I borrowed it, I lost that 1 because this had to become a 10, which became a 9. Okay, good question. All right, over here on the side, we're going to write down some keywords that you're going to see whenever you have word problems. We want to look for these words that tell us to estimate. So 1 might be best guess. Another might be approximate. If I write, you write. About is a really common one. About how much, about how many. When you see that word about, you know you're estimating and you have a little bit of freedom unless it tells you what to round to estimate. Almost. Friendly numbers. Have y'all ever heard that term? You might see it, a problem that says use friendly numbers to estimate such and such divided by such and such. So you would make the numbers easier to work with. You would round them, make them really easy and friendly to use. So friendly numbers. And then close to. And all of these are great estimation words that you might see in word problems to help you identify the fact that you need to be rounding something to make it easier to solve. Okay, you and your table, you're gonna work together to solve 1 through 4. Figure out how you went around and then we'll check. Okay, some of y'all are not done yet, that's okay. I know we've all got one done. Number 1 says, what is the best estimate of 4 times 588? Okay, this number, oh dear. This number is not super friendly, but 4 is fairly easy to work with because it's a single digit. So I'm gonna round 588 to 600 because it's easier. And then I'm gonna do 600 times 4. And that I can do pretty quickly because I know 6 times 4 is 24 and it's just put the 2 zeros at the end. So it should be B. This one is decimals. So it's asking, okay, well, this one's kind of tricky. You have a 3-hour period. So 3 hours goes by. It rains 1 9/10 inches. If it rained the same amount each hour, then about how many inches did it rain each hour? So you would do like 2. I would round that up to about 2 and divide that by 3. Okay, well, what do we know about division problems and fractions and decimals? Is this the same thing as doing 2? It is, yes. That fraction bar means division. It means divide. So 2/3. So which one of these is about 2/3?
B.
B. Very good. Okay, number 3. I'm going to round each of these to make them easier to work with because look at how most of my answers are given to me. Most of them are whole numbers. So 3 and 1900ths. Think about money. $3.19 is closer to $3 or $4? Is $3.19 closer to $3 or $4?
$3.
3. Would 76 cents be closer to nothing or $1? $1. So what's 3 minus 1? 2.
Did get that right.
Make it easier on yourself. When it says estimate, you're not looking for the exact, you want to round. Okay, last one. A fruit salad recipe calls for 5/6 of a cup of apples and 3/4 of a cup of watermelon. What is the best estimate for the total amount? So I'm going to add these two amounts together. 3/4 is pretty close to 1 cup. 5/6 is pretty close to 1 cup. What's 1 plus 1? 2.